Hi, this is Randy. Welcome to my channel. Glad to have you here today. Hope everything's going well with you. God's been good to me. A beautiful day. Would you please look at the bottom right hand corner and hit the subscribe button and help me out if you hit it. And if you give me a thumbs up, it helps me get this pushed out. They'll push it out eventually. They'll offer people the videos if I get help. I want to thank all the ones that have subscribed. All 107 of you, I appreciate you. I need you, and I'm hoping that we'll get more because I need to get to 1,000 in order to get help from them to help me push it out. Today we're going to talk about physical and mental fatigue. We all get this at one time or another. When I speak about fatigue, I'm speaking about not being sleepy, but I'm talking about being physically and mentally fatigued. Have you ever felt like you couldn't think straight, you couldn't concentrate because you're so fatigued? This happens to people. Every time you sit down, you fall to sleep. When you wake up, you get off the couch, you move to the reclining chair, and you fall to sleep again in your chair. Why? Because you're mentally and physically fatigued, and you need rest. You feel so tired. I'm not talking about people that are 75, 85, 95. Those people have lived a good life. They've worked hard. They're in their older years. They may have some health conditions, and they're easily tired. I understand that. But people that are young should not be so fatigued that they can't do anything but lay around and sleep all the time. And so we need to realize that mental and physical fatigue is real. Just because you're a child of God doesn't mean you won't get it. All right, I ran a large car dealership several years ago before I retired, and I had 12 salespeople. We were the number one dealer in Southern Illinois for Chrysler Corporation, and I had 12 salespeople. On a Friday night or a Saturday, we were really busy. People that was before internet days where you had the internet, and people would come in, and sometimes we'd sell 20, 25 cars on Saturday. And you might work 35 or 40 deals. I mean, I just appraised 30 or 40 cars. And there was guys standing all over the place. And, I knew when they came in the door, who was first, whatever. I said, okay, we're getting overwhelmed. Who has a deal with no trade-in? If there was 8 guys standing there, 5 of them raised their hand. I don't have a trade. All right, come here. And they'd step up. I'd work their deal real quick and give it to them. I'd say, who was next? And the guy hand me his appraisal slip. Out I go, Then when I come back, I had 3 more guys in the office says, hey, they said this or he said that. And I was going that way all day, all day, all day, all day. We bought the salesman's lunch on Saturday because they couldn't leave the dealership. That's how busy we were on Saturdays. And so I would, at the end of the day, we closed at 5. Usually I lock the doors around 5:30, and we get the doors locked. Whoever was inside had to be taken care of. Once all of them were gone, then me and my finance managers would sweep the place, make sure there was nobody there, lock all the doors, turn out the lights, and receipt the money and close everything out. And then we'd leave, all right? Sometimes I would say goodbye to them and they left, and I'd go in my office with no lights on, and I'd put my feet up on my desk and lay back in my chair, and I'm like, I can't think straight. I can't think straight. All day long, guys. This way. Finance manager comes out, they want the car, but they want this, or they need that, or whatever, and it was constant. And that was the kind of job I had, and I loved it, and I was good at it. And won all sorts of awards. And I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just telling what happened. I know about me. I don't know about you. But there were times I was mentally and physically fatigued. And then when I got home, the kids wanted my attention. And my wife says, you look beat. I said, just give me an hour. I got to decompress. I tried to decompress at work. And so she'd say, kids, come on in here, whatever. I'd decompress. Then I had to put my dad hat on and go to work there. Why? Because we get mentally and physically fatigued. It does happen to people, and you have to get rejuvenated and you have to get recharged. Now in 2 Kings chapter 18, the prophet Elisha, had called down fire on the prophet of Baal, and he had called fire on them, and they became as soon as he did that, he became under spiritual attack. Then we look in 2 Kings chapter 19. Jezebel sent out a curse on him and said to him, by the end of the day, your life will be called in by tomorrow. And what did Elisha do? He took off running like a scalded dog for his life. He was running. The Bible says he came upon a juniper tree and that he asked God to let him die. And he was suicidal and he fell down and went to sleep. Why? Because he was mentally and physically drained and he was beat down. And then when she said she was putting a curse on him, by this time tomorrow you'll be dead, fear came in because he wasn't charged up. He wasn't spiritually up where he should have been, and he ran. Have you ever ran from trouble? I've known people that just drove away, just drove off. I've had people just drive off. 3 or 4 days later, they reappeared. They said, I just got overwhelmed. I had to take off. They didn't even tell nobody where they were going. Their family was worried to death. They leave them a note behind. I just can't take it anymore. I need to go away for a while, and they just disappear. It does happen, and it's a sad thing. But they get mentally and physically fatigued. All right, I was always taught and trained in management school, and my nephew, who was 12 years older than me, Joe May, he was a sports announcer, and did a lot of TV work and radio, and he was just really good at what he did. He always told me when I was a kid, when I visit with him, he said, listen, the best way to take on a problem is meet it head on. If you got somebody that's and they're beefing and they're headed your way, don't let them come in your office when you're sitting down. Get up and go out and meet them. Meet them at the door and say, here, you got a problem. I'm the one that can solve it. What do we got here? Come on in. Take charge. Face it. You can't run away from your problems. You can't drive away off and leave a note for your family and be gone 3 or 4 or 5 days, not let them know where you're at and what's going on. That worries the children, the wife. They don't know what's going on. All right? So you need to face your problems. So that's what I did. When I knew I had somebody unhappy, I was right there. I opened the door for them. When they come out of the back, they came from the service department, and they came up front, and I was there and said, I heard you got a problem. I'm the problem solver. Come on in my office here. And they go in, they start ranting and raving right away. I go, and finally the guy says, what are you doing? I said, you're either going to quit cussing and screaming, or I'm going to have you removed, and you won't get your problem solved, and you're going to compound your problem, because if you don't leave, I'll call the police and have you arrested. Then all of a sudden, I said, if you want my help, you need to sit down. And if they sat down and they shut up, then they were no longer in control. I was. And they needed my help. I didn't need theirs. So I said, I want to solve your problem, but you're not going to call me every name in the book. I know who my dad is, and I know who my mom is, and you better not talk about my mom and dad that way. And 90% of them would say right away, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be offensive. I probably shouldn't have been cussing. I said, we got women and children in here. You need to sit down and be still. Why? Because after you do that all day long, solve problems, put out fires. By the end of the day, you're beat down. Sometimes you're mentally and physically wore out. You must learn to deal with physical and mental fatigue and know when you need help. This shows us that even a prophet of God got down spiritually, physically, and he got fatigued. Who was a prophet of God? If a prophet of God can get beat down like that, you sure can. I can. Let's get real. People face problems in life. Life is full of them. The Bible says many are the afflictions of the righteous, but he'll deliver you out of them all. All right? So we need to realize we will go through tough times. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. All right? So you may go through the valley of the shadow of death. The Lord doesn't say you're not going to go through it. He said you will, but he'll be there with you and you'll get through it. You don't pitch a tent or build a house and stay there. You get out of the valley of the shadow of death. Elijah had an angel who tapped him on the shoulder, and then the angel cooked him some food to eat. Have you ever woke up when you were so beat down and you had an angel there that had a meal ready for you? I haven't. Have you? But that's what the prophet of God had. And you might see that some attacks come from people within your own ranks, within your own family. Attacks may come from them. It could come from anybody. But you have to come out from underneath the eating donuts and ice cream. You know, when some people get depressed, they buy a gallon of ice cream, they sit there and do this. All right? And they eat the ice cream. Now, I don't eat a lot of sweets because they don't agree with me, and I just don't. My idea of eating something sweet, I love to have a homemade apple pie. My wife's best friend, Anita, lives up in St. Louis County. And man, she makes the best apple pie you ever put in your mouth. And every time she comes this way, I say, Anita, don't come without. And she goes, an apple pie. I tell you what, I love pie. I love fruit pies the best. Apple and cherry and blueberry and peach. You know, I like fruit pies. But we have to realize that when we get depressed, you can't sit around and eat everything in the house. Then some people go to the extreme the other way. They don't eat at all. They stop eating because they're so beat down mentally and physically they don't eat. This will make you even more susceptible to getting further down and down and down. All right? And if you eat, especially a lot of sweets, all right, you're going to get so down, you're tired, you want to sleep and everything else. You have to learn to deal with mental and physical fatigue. There are times you need to rest, all right? There are times you need to do things. I had a nephew one time. He just passed away, unfortunately, about a month ago. He was 88, and he was quite a bit older than me. And one time he told me, he said, I'm headed out to the woods. I'm going to spend a night out in the woods by myself. I'm going to light me a fire, cook me some stuff on the fire, sleep in a tent. I need to decompress. I am just mentally and physically wore out, and I need to get out. And he went out in the woods, and he went camping. And he came back, and he was much, much better. So you need to do what you got to do. Pray, talk to the Lord, because you can get depressed real easy and stop eating, or you eat too much. Either way, to the extreme. Why? Because you're mentally and physically beat down, and you don't need to do that. So we need to realize stress and physical fatigue and mental fatigue is real. And it happens to church people and Christians and ministers too. It happened to the prophet of the Lord. If the prophet got depressed, sit under a juniper tree and prayed and asked the Lord to take his life because he was suicidal. He was so worried about this woman got the curse on him, she's going to kill him, all right? Well, if she's got a curse on you, she's going to kill you anyway. Why do you want the Lord to take you out? Why are you praying and you're suicidal? But he was. So this lets you know you're in good company, folks. If you get discouraged and you have mental and physical fatigue, realize a prophet of God did too. It can happen to anybody. Doesn't matter if you're a TV preacher. Doesn't matter if you pastor a church with 20 people, 200 people, or 2,000 people, or 20,000 people. You can still get overcome and get overtaken by stress. Stress and physical fatigue are real, and they're with us today. And we need to realize that. You need to pray. You need to get with your pastor. If you're going to a church and you're not a minister, you need to get with your pastor and tell him what's going on and ask him to pray for you and to help you. If you still are having big-time major problems and you feel like running away from your family or you feel like doing drastic things, let me tell you something. You need to learn this right away. Don't make major life decisions when you're upset. If you make major life decisions, like I'm going to quit this church and go somewhere else, all right? If you do that, it's going to be wrong. It's not going to work out because you're stressed out and you're doing things under duress and you're mentally and physically stressed, and I've been there, and I made that mistake, and it's not good. You need to ask God to help you. Talk to your pastor and let them pray with you. If you are getting suicidal like the prophet of God was, and you feel like you're suicidal and you've prayed and you've talked to your pastor and you're still having bad thoughts, you need to get professional help. You need to reach out to someone. Don't take your own life. That's some of the hardest funerals I ever had to preach. People that took their own life. Really hard. And it's really, really hard on the family. The ones that are left behind, it is horrible for them. I've seen it firsthand. And we need to realize that mental and physical fatigue can get you down. Physical and mental fatigue are real, and we have to learn to deal with them in real life. We all need to shut down now and then and get rebooted, just like you reboot your computer. You set it down, turn it off, give it a while. My computer guys, oh, they were wonderful when I was in the car business. I call those guys that were in a different state. I say, hey, fellas, they could send us a new contract. They made 3 or 4 changes in it. They go in effect. These yahoos didn't send them to us. We didn't get them till today, and they go in effect tomorrow. No problem, Randy. Scan one or fax it over to us. And 5 minutes later, they call me back. Randy, can you get out of your computer? Yeah, I've worked all the deals. I know where I'm at on them. Okay, we only need 3 or 4 minutes. And all of a sudden, my screen would go black. Then it'd come back up. They were in my computer. And then once they got done, they called me in 2 or 3 minutes. Said, Randy, drop a contract in a printer and print it. I dropped it and printed it. It was perfect. I said, it's good. They said, okay, no problem. I'd say thanks and hung up. They got it taken care of. But they were the guys that told me, Randy, if you get too many programs going, and if you get overwhelmed with a computer won't move, shut it down, count to 1001, 1002 till you do 10, fire it back up, and you'll be back in business. Sometimes you and me have to reboot our brain and shut it down before we can get up and go again. It does happen, physical and mental fatigue. We all need to shut down and get rebooted. Pray and get spiritual help from your pastor. Seek a doctor if you need to. I know a lot of people criticize me because I mention doctors and they think that it's a lack of faith, that you can't get healed and it's your fault and you don't have enough faith and all that. That's another subject to deal with on another day. I'm talking about people that are really fatigued mentally and physically, people that may be suicidal like the prophet of God was. These people need God's help, and they need any help that they can get so they don't get this way, so they can get out of it. We all get beat down sooner or later, but we need to stand up and ask for help and go to the Lord in prayer and seek help and go to your pastor and get him to pray with you. Don't sit around and be fatigued and eat a whole gallon of ice cream and 2 dozen donuts and then you're sick, or go 3 or 4 days without eating. I'm not making fun. This is real. All right, it's real. I've seen it firsthand. Mental and physical fatigue. You can't overcome it. You need to get the proper help. You need to start out with the Lord and get a hold of your pastor and ask them to pray. Another good reason to go to church. You need a pastor. Please subscribe. Please subscribe to the channel, bottom right-hand side. I could really use the help. We need to get subscribers in order for them to push it out. I need your help. I love you. I appreciate you. I hope you have a great day. Thank you for your time. This time till next time, Old Rev May signing off. You have a wonderful day and God bless you. I love you and so does God.